October 22nd, 1764. The Battle of Buxar seals India's fate. Mir Qasim, who succeeds his father-in-law Mir Jafar as the Nawab of Bengal with the support of the British East India Company, is now disillusioned. He has plundered his country, depleted the treasury, and paid up to 3 million rupees to the British, but still was unable to satisfy their ever-increasing demand. He desperately wants to win. He forges allies with the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II and Sujauddullah of Awadh. But his dream crushes. The Nawab of Bengal, Mir Qasim, falls along with his allies. The British East India Company now owns the Diwani rights, which empowered them not only to trade freely in India, but also to collect land revenue tax from 20 million residents of the Bengal province, which include modern-day Bangladesh and the states of West Bengal, Odisha, Bihar, Jharkhand, and Uttar Pradesh.
During the next 6 years, the East India Company destroys large areas of food crops to make way for the growing of indigo plants for exporting dye and opium poppies for the production of drugs. They increase the tax on agricultural produce from 10% to 50%, transferring much of Bengal's wealth to the company's shareholders. In 1770, Great Bengal famine affects the entire lower Ganges plain, taking a toll of 10 million lives. Nobel laureate Dr. Amartya Sen calls this as the biggest man-made famine in the history of the world. The famine is followed by an epidemic of smallpox, killing countless men, women, and children. The British do little to alleviate the situation.
The Hindu monks and Muslim fakirs join hands in protesting against this brutal act of the British East India Company. They are agitated also for another reason. Traditionally, large groups of monks and fakirs from North India have traveled to various holy places in Bengal for pilgrimage and religious purposes. Zamindars and Nawabs pay them handsome alms, which is collected as religious tax in the province. However, upon receiving the Diwani rights, the East India Company denies this money to the sannyasis. To the British, these ascetics are looters and are a threat to their establishment. They must be stopped from collecting money that belongs to the company and possibly even from entering the province.
In 1771, 150 saints are put to death, apparently for no reason. The sannyasi community revolts. Their number swells to more than 50,000 within 2 years, and now they can match the soldier headcount of the government army in open warfare. The fakirs and the sannyasis are united for the rebellion to defeat their common enemy, the British. When the company forces try to prevent the sannyasis and fakirs from entering the province during the last 3 decades of the 18th century, fierce clashes follow. Many a times, the company forces are defeated. This rebellion is spearheaded by Sufi saint Majnoom Shah and a Bhojpuri Brahmin, Bhavani Pathak. Devi Chaudhurani is the first and most prominent woman in the rebellion leadership roles.
Almost 100 years pass by. A bright young boy, Bankim, intensely listens to his grand-uncle telling him stories about the fierce sannyasi fighters who fought to death for their rights. His eyes shine with excitement. His mind fills with pride. His grand-uncle teaches him the values of sacrifice and need for a better government. The young boy is deeply influenced. When he grows up, he attends a newly established Calcutta University. After graduating with a BA degree, he joins the British India government as a civil servant, becoming a district magistrate and later a district collector. He always remains keenly interested in the recent events, particularly the revolt of 1857 and the previous century's Sannyasi rebellion that he first learned from his grand-uncle. He notices that the British administration is trying to promote God Save the Queen as the anthem for the Indian subjects. but the Indian nationalists dislike it. He feels an urge to express himself. He writes a novel in Bengali and publishes it in 1882, calls it Ananda Math.
Bankim sets the novel in the backdrop of 1771. Muslim Nawabs lost in the battle are in charge of protecting the citizens. Citizens pay hefty taxes. The British sell opium to the Nawabs and Zamindars, and no one voices for the citizens. Looters dominate the Ganges plain. Meanwhile, severe famine hits Bengal due to lack of rainfall. Mahendra and Kollani, a couple from a rich family, stuck at their village Padochinno without food and water, finally decide to leave their village for survival. However, the couple gets separated, and Kollani runs through the forest with her infant to avoid getting caught by the looters. After a long chase, she loses consciousness at the bank of a river. A Hindu monk, Bhavananda, stumbles upon her and the baby. He promises to take care of her till he reunites Kollani with her husband. The sannyasis search for Mahendra and ultimately find him. Bhavananda accompanies Mahendra for reunification with his wife. On the way, Mahendra realizes that these monks carry arms and loot the wealthy people. He becomes utterly disgusted. However, while walking with Bhavananda during one night, he hears him singing a beautiful melodious Sanskrit song.
Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Sujalam Sukhalam, Malayaja Sheetalam, Sasya Syamalam Mataram, Vande Mataram, Shubhra-jyotsna pulakitayamini, Pullakusumita drumadala shobhini, Suhasini sumadhura bhashini, Sukhadam varadam mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram.
Mahendra becomes spellbound. The song is very powerful. Mahendra tries to understand the meaning. Bhavananda educates him about the motherland, says, "This soil that makes our land is the same soil that makes Ma Durga's idol." Mahendra becomes transformed. He learns about an India that he is not aware of. He becomes inclined towards joining the brotherhood of the monks and serving his motherland.
Meanwhile, Mahendra and Kalyani reunite. But Mahendra is a changed man. Kalyani wants to help him in attaining his dreams by trying to kill herself, thus relieving him of worldly duties. Bhavananda finds out and stops her from committing suicide. But Bhavananda is captured by the British soldiers with the charge of fueling revolt against the British rule.
The arrest of Bhavananda energizes the rebels further. Emboldened, they shift their headquarters to a small brick fort. The British soldiers attack the fort with a large force. The rebels blockade the bridge over the nearby river. In the fighting, the British make a tactical retreat over the bridge. The sannyasis, lacking military experience, chase the British and fall into the trap. Once the bridge is full of rebels, British artillery opens fire, inflicting severe casualties. Some rebels manage to capture some cannons and turn the fire back onto the British lines. The British are forced to fall back. The rebels win their first battle. The story ends with Mahendra and Kollani building a home and raising their little kid with a passion for patriotism. The novel creates a sensation among the educated Bengali society as soon as it is published. It is then translated into English as The Abbey of Bliss, and the British immediately banned the novel in India. But Vande Mataram hymn not only survives but catches on as a forest fire in Bengal.
Bankim asks his childhood music teacher and friend, Jadunath Bhattacharya, popularly known as Jadu Bhatta, to set a tune to the song. Jadu Bhatta, born in Bhatpara, is the court musician of Panchadgarh, He is a genius of Indian classical music. He belongs to the Vishnupur Gharana and specializes in Dhrupad music. Born in the year of 1840, he was 2 years younger to Bankim. He accepts Bankim's request and sets the tune of Vande Mataram. A decade later, Jadu Bhatto becomes the music teacher of young Rabindranath Tagore. Tagore is 21 years younger to Bankim Chattopadhyay and holds great respect for him. One day, Jadu Bhatto teaches Tagore the Vande Mataram song. Tagore is mesmerized. Jadu Bhatto dies at an age of 43. Eventually, his 177 years old Tanpura that he used while giving lessons to the icons like Bankim and Tagore makes its way to the Indian National Museum. Sahitya Samrat Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay passes away in 1894 at an age of 56. Tagore mourns. Vande Mataram keeps rilling in his mind. In 1896, at the Calcutta Congress session held at Bidden Square, Tagore sings Vande Mataram. The elite class of India comes to know about this powerful song.
5 years later, Dakshina Charan Sen sings it in 1901 at another session of the Congress at Calcutta. Poet Sarla Devi Chaudhrani sings the song in the Benares Congress session in 1905. In the same year, Bipin Chandra Pal starts a weekly English newspaper called Vande Mataram in Calcutta. Lala Lajpat Rai starts a journal with the same name from Lahore. Hiralal Sen makes India's first political film in 1905, which ends with the Vande Mataram chant. In 1907, Bhikaji Cama creates the first version of India's national flag in Stuttgart, Germany. Vande Mataram written on it. Meanwhile, Swadeshi movement starts rocking Calcutta streets every day, opposing the Curzon-imposed division of the Bengal province. Imported objects from Britain are thrown into the fire with chanting of Vande Mataram. The whole nation shivers while pronouncing the mantra and unites to fight against the British. In 1908, 18-year-old Khudiram sings Vande Mataram before he is hanged by the British.
In 1909, Aurobindo Ghosh translates Vande Mataram in English. Sister Nivedita writes, Aurobindo came out with a new interpretation of Bankim Chandra's song Vande Mataram, which now leaped out of his comparative obscurity within the covers of a Bengali novel and in one sweep found itself on the lips of every Indian man, woman or child. However, Muslim League opposes to adopt it, citing the song is written in the praise of goddess Durga. In 1908, Sayyad Imam, presiding over the Muslim League, officially condemns the song. But surging numbers of revolutionaries given rise to by the mantra deluges the objection. Ultimately, in 1911, divided Bengal reunites, defeating the British intention. In 1912, Laladhar Dayal carries Vande Mataram message to the United States and forms Gadar Party along with Rajbihari Bose, Sohan Singh Bakhna, and Abdul Hafiz. Vande Mataram becomes a new greeting among Indians in the US and Canada.
Years pass by. In 1920, Mahatma Gandhi leads the nation. He protests against the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, embracing the power of the holy hymn Vande Mataram. Gandhi adopts the British boycott message from Swadeshi and energizes the whole country into non-cooperation movement.
আমরা সকলে দাস হয়ে জন্মেছি। আসুন আমরা সংকল্প করি যে আমরা মরবার পূর্বে স্বাধীন হব। বন্দে মাতরম। Our struggle is no doubt a non-violent struggle, but even a non-violent struggle demands an army, an organization, and a machinery. India is going to be free, and that we who live today are going to play a part in making India free. There is no power on earth that can keep India enslaved anymore. Let us strive for India's freedom. Vande Mataram.
On one hand, to majority, Vande Mataram becomes synonymous to the independence struggle. On the other hand, the All India Muslim League passes resolutions rejecting Vande Mataram. To keep the unity, in 1922, Indian National Congress introduces Sare Jahan Se Achha, written by poet Muhammad Iqbal, as an alternative to Vande Mataram. The League still persists in its objection against Vande Mataram. In April of 1930, Master Da Surjo Sen leads the revolutionaries to raid the Chittagong Armory of Police and Forces, while chanting Vande Mataram. This creates further rift between Muslim and Hindus over Vande Mataram. In 1936, the uneasiness peaks between Hindus and Muslims over Vande Mataram, almost to the brink of riots.
I know the people of America are deeply interested in India. I send you my cordial greetings on behalf of the Muslim India, and I feel we have your good wishes. As you know, of the many races, creeds and religions that inhabit the vast subcontinent of India, there are two major nations, the Hindus and Muslims. 100 millions of Muslims cannot be characterized as a minority. We are 70 millions in the northwestern and northeastern zones of India. We constitute a majority of 70% against the caste Hindus in these homelands of ours. We want the division of India into Hindustan and Pakistan because that is the only practical solution.
Warit Tagore writes to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose that the foundation of a country cannot be built on doubts. With fear that the country may split, he goes on to write, when Musalmans show signs of stubborn fanaticism, we regard these as intolerable. When we too copy them and make unreasonable demands, it will be self-defeating. In 1938, Jinnah places before Nehru his demand for completely abandoning Vande Mataram. In August 1941, Tagore passes away, and in September, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose plays Jana Gana Mana and makes it the choice of Free India's national anthem in Hamburg, Germany. However, Vande Mataram hymn is unstoppable by now.
Bose now proceeded to Singapore. He received a hero's welcome by thousands of Indian volunteers, members of the Indian National Army under Japanese command. They were ready to fight the British, but had lacked a charismatic Indian leader.
At the proclamation of the Provisional Government of Free India in Singapore in 1943, while establishing Azad Hind Fauj as the official Indian National Army under the leadership of Netaji, the crowd bursts out cheering Vande Mataram.
In March 1947, Earl Louis Mountbatten and his wife Edwina arrive in New Delhi. The great-grandson of Queen Victoria and second cousin to George VI, Mountbatten brings a regal presence to the drama of India's independence. As the last viceroy, he bears responsibility for India's fate.
2nd of April, 1947. I have now completed my first week in office. I should like to be able to paint an encouraging picture of my first impressions, but feel it would be misleading if I did so. The scene here is one of unrelieved gloom. At this early stage, I can see little common ground on which to build any agreed solution for the future of India. The only conclusion I have been able to come to is that unless I act quickly, I may well find the real beginnings of a civil war on my hands.
By May, attempts to create a unified India have failed. Gandhi retreats from political life. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, leader of the Muslim League, and Jawaharlal Nehru of the Indian National Congress concede to divide India. Fearing a total loss of control, Mountbatten brings forward the transfer of power to August. Two nations will be created by partition, a secular India and a new homeland for India's Muslims, Pakistan.
Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
In 1947, India wins freedom. Jana Gana Mana is adopted as the national anthem by the first President of India, Dr. Rajendra Prasad. However, due to communal tension, Vande Mataram is not mentioned.
3 years later, on 24th January 1950, Babu Rajendra Prasad, presiding over the Constituent Assembly, adopts Vande Mataram as the national song of India by saying, "The composition consisting of words and music, known as Jana Gana Mana, is the national anthem of India, subject to such alterations as the government may authorize as occasion arises, and the song Vande Mataram, which has played a historic part in the struggle for Indian freedom, shall be honored equally with Jana Gana Mana and shall have equal status with it." The Constituent Assembly burst into applause. Who knew in 1770 that the Sannyasi Fakir rebellion, the first sign of joint protest of the Hindus and the Muslims against the British, would leave a permanent mark in the history-making of India and our sovereign identity?